All right, guys, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Smash Times Lead Therapy. Thinking about changing the name. I'm not sure yet, but I don't know. I might call it the 2A Uncle Fester's Retarded Cousin Show. I'm not sure yet. Could be anything. Let's check the chat real quick, see who we got in here. We got Fluffy, of course, in crew. What's up, buddy? Hey, Zeus. FocusTrip. I know that guy. We got, was it Stevie K? All right, nice. Who else? TNT Shuffle. Man, I dig that name. That's a cool name. And Lucky Dog. All right, guys. Now, when I go on the internet, when I look at other YouTubers, I kind of just ignore a lot of people. Honestly, if you do YouTube, you don't really watch a lot of other people's YouTube, but sometimes a channel will catch you, an intro will catch you, and you're like, man, that's actually pretty good stuff. And that's what brought me to this next gentleman. I think, researching like a Prism Scope, and I know zero bupkis about Prism Scopes. And I think I ran across his channel, something like that. And then he had some really good videos, some pretty funny stuff. I like his sense of humor quite a bit. And then without further ado, let's bring on FocusTrip.
Hey, how's it going, man?
What's up, man? So how did you get the name FocusTrip?
That's a long story. So first off, thanks for having me on, of course. Pleasure to be here tonight.
Man. Thank you for coming on.
The name FocusTrip came from, originally, I did car stuff on my YouTube channel, and I owned a Focus. And so it was going to be some really corny name about like Focus Journey or something, because it was basically going to be me building up this Ford Focus from stock to something more like a rally car or something cool eventually, right? But that fizzled out. I changed from that into computers. So FocusTrip originally came from me doing car videos, which were a pain, and I stopped doing them like 3 or 4 years ago. So
I started the channel the same way.
Yeah.
So I started my channel doing car stuff. I had a GTR, and I would go to all the car meets and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I put so much effort into these videos, and I had like 4 people watch it. And I'm like, this sucks. So unless you're rebuilding a car from scratch, just to do regular car stuff is really tough. And then, I did a couple ammo run videos, and it blew up. And I'm like, I like guns, so I'm just going to switch and do that.
Yep, so that's exactly what happened to me too. I posted like a random pistol review, and like 10 times more views than any of the other videos I'd ever posted. And I was like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing now, because I have brothers that had a bunch of guns and stuff. I was never really into them, but then kind of got into them. And then as soon as it kicked off, I was like, oh, hey, I can kind of just do this now.
Exactly my story. Yep. See, I knew we're kindred spirits. So it's the same thing. So I was in line one morning. Everyone in the chat's probably heard this story a million times. And my wife calls me. It's like 7:30 in the morning. She goes, what are you doing? So I'm in line, going to buy some ammo. She goes, how fucking stupid. Oh, excuse my French. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, that's so dumb. I go, what? She goes, you're just in line buying ammo. Yeah, I'm just hanging out with some other people. She goes, there's other people there? I go, yeah, there's actually like 30 people here. She's like, why don't you make one of your stupid videos about that? So I did, and I got like 10,000 views in a day. And I was like, wow, that's bananas.
See, now you can blame her for all of the guns.
I blame her for everything.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's check the chat. We have, of course, TNT Shuffle. My buddy David Green, how's Florida? Hope it's all right. Paul. Oh, drop it like it's Scott. What's up, buddy? Another Florida resident. Enjoying that beautiful weather. Focus shooting. Yeah, it'll be cool. So do you still drive a Focus?
No, actually, I got rid of my last Focus 2 years ago now. I spent like $7,000 in a year to try and keep it running because it just had horrible problems with it. So I got rid of my last Focus a while ago. So I don't do anything with them anymore.
Man, you know it's a trip. Everyone's like, oh, man, you get a car. It's so nice. But as soon as you start messing with it, things start breaking. And then it gets bad. So I bought my GTR in Atlanta. I drove it to Houston. And the day after I got here, the transmission literally fell out of it.
Oh, great. That's
awesome. So I immediately had a $7,000 bill after spending all my down payment on the car itself. So it sat in the garage for a couple days. And my wife was pissed. She goes, "You just paid all this money for this car and it broke already." I'm like, "Yeah." So,
Yeah.
got a lot of nights on the couch, man. That sucks.
Right. I mean, hey, I would be pissed too. That's a lot of money down the drain.
All right, we got Texan65. What's up? All right, cool. So you started as a car channel. You weren't really into guns. Very same, man. So when you started getting into guns, you started doing. You've been doing YouTube about 7 years,
Yes. Yeah.
and you just said, "Hey," and a lot of it's optic focused.
Mhm.
I've seen, and I think I found your channel. You were doing like a Prism scope, and
Yeah,
Swamp
probably in the
Fox had
Victor
sent me a
stuff.
scope, and
Okay.
I had no idea, man. A Prism scope. So I put it on. The high relief was all wonky. I go, "This scope sucks."
Do
So I
you remember
watched a
which one
couple.
it was? Was it the big fat one?
It was a big giant one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
I
reviewed
messed
the
with it a
Swamp
little
Fox one.
bit. Yeah, so I messed with it a little
Mhm.
bit, and it got better. And I was like, "Dude, this sucks for close quarters." And then a
Mhm.
friend of mine is, "Why don't you put one of those cool side mount red dots on it?" So I put the little red dot on the side. I
Mhm.
ended up loving the scope. I love putting a little gangster, turning it sideways, shooting. I thought it was
Right. It
really
looks
cool.
cool.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
cool. Very movie-esque, man. I was like, "This is dope. I can dig this." But yeah, I found your channel looking up Prism Scopes.
Mhm.
So why did you go scope focus when everyone else does guns?
Well, so I have a reputation online for being a poor and reviewing like budget stuff. And the simple truth is that optics are cheaper than buying full guns all the time. So, for instance, if I was doing like a gun review, like over there, I have a PWS Mark 116, which is coming out eventually. But using that gun, I can review like, say, 4 or 5 different scopes on it, depending on what sort of rotation I'm doing. And it's a lot cheaper. I get a lot more content versus like just doing a gun review, which for me takes a little bit longer and the guns themselves are more expensive. So it just
Oh yeah.
happened. It just was a budgetary thing where it was like, well, I can get more optic videos out and spend less money on them basically. So, and people like them. Obviously you need an optic on your gun if you're going to have a gun, especially when we're talking about rifles. So
Yeah.
it works out the same way.
So when you went to pistols, are you a big pistol guy?
Not really. When I shoot a pistol, I want it to have I want to cheat as much as possible. So like my quote unquote like duty style gun is a ported Glock 17, and then my carry gun, which is on the desk, is a Canik Meta MC9. And that's right now, those are the only 2 handguns that I own. Those are the only
No
2 handguns that
kidding.
I own. Yeah. Yep.
I wish I could say that. You start running out of room, man, and it gets a little
Right.
weird.
Well, I
So
mean, you can send them my way.
as far as budget optics,
Mhm.
I remember I started out. I went on Amazon. I think I bought a Pinty
Okay.
little
Yeah.
red dot. And, that little thing had zero. It was great. And then I watched your video on the Romeo 5 where you're like, I've dropped it 47 times. A very specific number, by the way. Could
Yeah.
have just said 50, but you're like, no, 47. I was like,
I think the number is 47 because I've used that one for a long time and I've kept track of what I've done to it over the years.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think
So,
it is 47.
and I can't believe it actually survived because in
Mhm.
1 year, I went through 3 Romeo 5s that just kept
Really?
breaking. They were just the
What
worst
was
optic.
it like electronic failure on them? Like the batteries dying or the
One of
dots
them,
dying?
one was a battery it would just drain the battery or just kill
Okay.
it or whatever.
Mhm.
And the other one was it wouldn't go up and down no matter what I did. And
Mhm.
the other one, I think it was just DOA.
Yeah. So I think that is the issue you're going to have with that type of optic is bodies are kind of indestructible just because they're copying an aimpoint T2 basically, but because they're put together for 1/8 of the price basically, you're going to get issues with the electronics not being put in properly, the quality control is not going to be there because I mean you're spending $100 on an optic, it's not going to have the same level of care put into it versus like something between say 4 and $600.
Steve, I thought they were fakes at first too, except I sent them back to SIG and they sent me from SIG the replacement, which they also
Mhm.
sucked.
No, and I've heard of the electronics failing in those optics. If you go to my video I just put out about that, basically, you'll see people in the comments having basically the exact same experience. I have apparently just been lucky, and I haven't had the electronics fail.
Yeah, I
So,
was like, you must have the unicorn one.
right. Well, I mean, they sell a lot of those, a lot of those. So I am surprised that they've had as many issues as they have with them because they are a very popular optic, especially in that genre of cheap red dots. It's probably top one, top two in terms of the big red dot manufacturers.
Yeah, so when I do optic, I've tried to do a couple optic reviews, and I try to keep it more real world based. Like, okay, look, am I going to drag this behind my car for 6 miles? No. Am I going to drop it on like AR 500 steel 55, 47 times? Probably not. Am I going to drop it a couple times? Yeah. So I'll toss it around. I'll drop it, but I'm not going to like shoot it.
Right.
It's like, come on, if you abuse anything enough, guns, scopes, your marriage, it's going to fall apart. Things happen.
Right. Well, and that's the thing for me when it comes to drop tests. I know that they're all anecdotal to that specific optic on that specific gun on that specific day, but it's just a data point for the watcher to enjoy and to, take into consideration. You don't need, like, if my optic breaks, it doesn't mean you shouldn't buy it, but if it holds up well, also doesn't necessarily mean that yours is going to hold up well either. It's just like an extra thing to take into consideration. So
people love it, dude. They love those torture tests,
and they do like to watch it too, which is, so there's a plus in there for me to do it, of course.
Yeah, like I have a video coming out. I was shooting with the buddies that, hey, free preview of a video coming out next week. So he had an AR. It was given to him as a gift. He doesn't know anything about guns, doesn't own a pistol. He just had an AR. Our kids are friends. Our kids go to jiu-jitsu together. And so he pulls this AR out, no scope, nothing. And it has like a shit stock, a shit grip. And I'm like, you know what? You can't shoot it here at the range because you don't have a scope. So just put it in the bag and I was going to take it and juice it up for him for Christmas and give back to him a really nice rifle. But it turns out it's one of these polymer American tactical.
Oh, ATI, yeah. Ugh.
Dude. And so I took it out and I'm like, what is this piece of shite? It's terrible. And you know what? Honestly, if a lower goes bad on you or blows up, no big deal. But if that upper fails, you could take half your face off, man. I mean, it could be bad. So
yeah, what are those ATI hybrids? Those are, yeah.
The Omni hybrid, yeah. What a piece of shit.
Back in the day when I was just trying to, for some reason, I was like, oh, I just want to buy a bunch of lowers. I bought 3 polymer lowers from Tennessee Armament or something like that. I don't think they exist anymore, but all 3 of them broke over time, over like the first year I had them. So
if someone in the chat tell me there was an AR company that was a big name that had a polymer lower for a little bit. I wanted to say it was Bushmaster.
But I think KP15 still makes their polymer lower. Some people really like it.
It was someone in the chat will know. It was a really lightweight. It was like 10 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay. That was before I was even doing guns. So
yeah, it was a lot. It was when I first got in it because I'm like, oh, it's lightweight. It must be great. And I went to go look at it, and everyone was like, avoid it like the plague because it's gonna blow up on you.
Plum crazy? Is that what they're saying?
No, I don't think it was plum crazy. Who was it? It's gonna drive me nuts. It was a big name though. It was a very well-known name. It'll come around. It'll come around, folks.
Yeah, but people were experimenting with that sort of thing for a while, but it works in other platforms, like because you can find other guns that have polymer lowers, like the ACR. ACR has a polymer lower, and those work great, but it's just designed around that versus the AR-15, which is absolutely not designed around a polymer lower.
Yeah, the Carbon 15. Who made the Carbon 15?
Oh,
that's right. It was the Carbon 15. It was a big name. It was a big name company. And I was because my wife was starting to shoot, and it's real lightweight. And I'm like, man, that would be a great gun to get her. And I went to look at it, and it was junk.
Yeah, it was Bushmaster. You're right. I made the
Carbon I'm not 15. Going crazy.
No,
God bless it. I knew it was a big name.
Man, that
probably
picture,
why they're out of business.
if you pull it up on Google, it looks wacky.
It was terrible. It was lightweight though. I think the whole rifle
for sure
was like 5 pounds. Like, yeah, it's just
polymer's the way to get rid of some weight. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you didn't grow up with guns. You said your brothers were really into guns?
Well, so yeah, no, I really never had guns in the house growing up. My dad was really never into guns. My oldest brother joined the military and kind of was into guns tangentially, I suppose you could say. And so he's really the only influence I had in my close life that was into guns at all. And so when I eventually turned 21 in college, I picked up like a shotgun and a handgun and just had them laying around, and then eventually did videos on them. And that's where it started off, basically.
This is eerie. So my brother, my older brother, who was in the military, was really big into guns and got me into guns.
Mhm.
And I went out and bought a Mossberg shotgun and an XDM pistol
That is funny.
just because of his retarded ass.
I
And
think I
then,
bought a Smith & Wesson SD9 VE, which I
yeah,
absolutely hated. I hated that gun for so long. The trigger on that, have you ever used one?
I've seen them. They're not that pretty.
No, yeah, they're not. It was like $200 though, back in
Exactly.
like 10 years ago now at this point. But it was super cheap, and then I bought like a imported 12 gauge pump shotgun that was also like $200. I think it was the Stevenson 320 Security.
It probably still works though.
It worked great while I had it. I forget where it is now. I probably sold it by now.
Man, that is so funny. That is so funny. We're kindred spirits, except your vocabulary is much larger than mine. I feel like I should have a thesaurus handy.
Dude, I don't think so. So I'm good if I can edit myself down, but like you think a 20-minute video sounds good? Like I ramble for 45 minutes to an hour and then I edit it down. So the only reason I sound smart in a video, if I sound smart at all, is because I can edit myself down.
Well, you know what they say about YouTube? The best shooters are the best editors.
Exactly. Well, yeah, back in the
I
day
can
there
make
used to
it.
be
I
so
can make
many
it ding
tricks and
every
stuff
single
you would do.
time. Oh, I'll just add
Mhm.
a ding,
Oh yeah,
ding.
especially for distance shooting, of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was gonna make an Honest Outlaw parody where I'm shooting at 900 yards with a pistol.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah, that's in the works too. That's in the works. So we talked about how crappy the Romeo 5 was. So I saw a reply video that you did, and it
Mhm.
was freaking funny. And then I had to research the original video. What is the Promethean LP1 drama?
So I
Because
mean,
that guy looked like he was gonna cry his eyes out.
Ahmad's got a lot on his plate, man. Um, so that started out as just a simple review video. People really wanted me to check out the Promethean LP1. Sorry, bumped the mic. And yeah, it just kind of devolved from there after a inopportune phone call, I suppose. And then I make my video, and then he sends me a cease and desist letter about it. And yeah, the rest kind
So
of
did
just
you call
happened.
him or did he call you?
No, he called me. So he wanted to talk to me because I had had a couple issues with the optic before the review had come out, and I had talked to their customer service. I made an Instagram post about it,
Mhm.
and from that, he wanted to talk to me personally about it, and that's kind of when the whole situation started, basically.
Yeah, you're editing in the beginning of that. I'm like, God, this guy's so sarcastic. I fucking really like this channel now.
Mm,
Like your channel, just the sarcasm in me was like, I really like this guy. And then your quote on your YouTube is "I do stuff." I'm like, God, that's me
exactly.
too, man. Just I like to sleep and do stuff.
Stuff happens.
Yeah, stuff happens and you step in it. Everyone in the chat, really quick, open up a separate window. I'm going to put a link to FocusTripp's channel in there. If you're not a subscriber, please like and subscribe to his channel. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, like and subscribe to mine. I'd greatly appreciate it. And all right,
Do
so
both.
you review this optic. What kind of optic was it? What is the
So
LP1?
the LP1 is a red dot. It's a big windowed red dot, kind of similar to what it's
It looked pretty
copying,
chunky.
which is this is the Sig Romeo 8T. This is a fantastic red dot. Also costs retails like $700, $800, something like that. And the LP1 is kind of similar to this, made with cheaper materials and mostly sourced from China. I want to say they've been pretty clear about where most of the stuff is sourced from, but it's was touted as being like the most durable optic of all time, and it's just not. It's just not. It cracked twice on me, so it's not. This, however, this is the most durable optic of all time, but not the
So
LP1.
you did your review. I
Mhm.
watched it. You're like, it kind of sucks.
It's not that it's horrible. It's just that it doesn't match their marketing claims, and it's not necessarily worth $500. So
That's
it
a
sounds
bummer.
like it. People take what I said like way out of context. At the end of the day, it's a fine big window dot. It's just not what they claim that it is. So that was my biggest problem with it.
All right, so he calls you and he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on?"
Well, he calls me in the middle of the review process, which is the big problem. So he calls me in the middle of my review, and in the middle of it, insinuates that he wants to offer me compensation in various forms for it. of which I tell him no.
Wink, wink. We all know what that means. Sexual
I
favors.
mean, yeah, I have the cease and desist letter to prove it. But yeah. So, and then I pointed that out in the video. And, because I'm a small channel. I'm just about to hit 50,000 subs. At the time, I was probably at like 42,000 subs. And so in my head, my takeaway from that is if he's offering me that as a smaller YouTuber, he's probably, in theory, maybe, possibly, has done the same to other people as well.
Yeah. So he does this rebuttal video, which is pretty funny.
It's really bad. It was 19 minutes of ammo for me. I don't know why he did that.
I would have just let it go.
It would have been better for him if he could have just come on and been like, this guy's an idiot, and ended the video. It would have been way better for him.
Just not even acknowledge it.
Yeah, or don't do anything. Yeah.
Then, people have short memories, unfortunately, and it would have just, next year would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, to that point, that video has now, let me find it real fast. At the time, it had like 10,000 views, which is a popular video for me. 10,000 views is great.
Oh, 10,000 views is great.
Yeah. Now, however, after he made that video, it is sitting at 68,700.
That's a great video.
That's a fantastic video for my channel. And it was dead. It was a dead video. It was getting like 100 views a week. Then he makes his video, and then I make mine. And now there's an extra 60,000 views on it. That's from him, not from me.
That's bananas. Well, people love good YouTube drama anyway.
Yes.
They like when you melt shit, break shit, blow it up, or have some kind of drama. For a while, people were just making up stuff to hate on each other.
Right.
But it works in MMA. It works in wrestling. It's just like men say they don't like soap operas, but we eat that shit up.
Yeah. Well, it has to be. There's got to be a reason to watch it. Nobody likes the middle of the road, most boring take you've ever heard. Nobody's going to tune in and watch that every week, right?
Right. 100%. But I thought that the editing was really funny. I'm like, this guy's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it came out good. It's the first time I've really ever tried to do a video like that.
Oh, the voice changes were really funny. If you guys haven't watched it, look it up. It's about 4 months old. Oh, 2 months old. The original review, I think, was 4 months ago.
Yeah, it was.
And then the rebuttal was 2 months ago. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that original video came all the way out in July. So it's been a little while.
Yeah. Really good stuff.
I appreciate it.
So if anybody has optic questions in the chat, please, this is the guy you want to talk to. I would consider you now an optics expert. You've done it for a long time. You've done a lot of budget stuff. And I tell people like this with budget optics, especially stuff for like Chinese. Look, if you got 5 pistols, man, you can't afford to put an SRO on all of them. But there's nothing wrong with putting like a Pinty, or what's great is I use Siley. Siley's reached out to me. They sent me some stuff. And I buy a lot of Siley red dots now. So when I need a non-life dependent red dot,
right,
I'm not going to have it on my carry gun, but I'll have it in all my guns I just take to the range and just shoot around with.
So I think
0, and I just like them.
I think that's the most important distinction, though, is like if you have a gun set up for something serious, whatever you might have in your head, that should probably have the best thing that you can afford given your specific situation at that point, right?
100%.
But if it's just a range toy, like I have that's a 22 long rifle, precision rifle back there. It doesn't need a $2,000 scope on it. It has a $2,000
you're not going to put some Night Force on your 22?
It actually does have a Maven RS.4, which is $1,800. But that's because I have to film a review on that. But if it's just a toy gun, if it's just something you're punching paper at 100 yards, it's fine to have something cheaper, of course. And, if that's the best you can afford at that point in time, I started out without much money, basically buying the cheapest stuff possible, because it was all I could afford at the time.
Yeah, 100%.
And as situation has changed, as I've been able to buy nicer stuff, sometimes I like something like the Sigma Mu-8T, which is, again, like an $800 red dot. Do I own multiples of them? No, I don't, because I can't afford multiples of them,
Yeah, I mean, I have some pretty nice red dots on my gun, my go-to guns. But, if it's a range toy, there's nothing wrong with putting I think Siley is the best budget gun for the money, but best optic on a pistol for the money. That's like $80. Shake awake.
Yeah, because they're like They're like sub $100, right?
Yeah, sub $100, and they're
Okay. Yeah.
pretty nice. And then
I haven't personally used them yet, but I have
a
heard good
lot
things
of
from other people. So
a lot of clones are coming out from the same
sure. Yeah,
factory.
exactly.
There's
Yeah.
like it's still a Siley optic. It's their factory, but there's a lot of new optic companies coming out with coincidentally similar optics. You know, just saying they're out there.
Now, is Siley the actual manufacturer? Do you know, or is it still contract manufacturing?
I'm pretty sure it's contract, but man,
Okay.
they come out with it first, and then
Well, yeah, and then it's a Chinese company, so they're going to sell the design to 10 other people.
1,000 people.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
many you want? Fucking a million. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
let's check the chat real
That
quick.
happens a lot.
Benji, what's up? What's up? Drop it like it's Scott. Sorry, had to step away. What is he doing? Buying a mini fridge? I don't know. He agrees, Siley. Fred Bay says red dots hold 0 better than Prism on. Hold on, let me see. I can't read that.
Yeah, do red dots hold 0 better than prisms on harsh drops? Mounts being the same. So, well, it's difficult to get prisms to have the same mounts as a red dot, but let's say you take something like a vector prism on a good aimpoint T1 to T2 style of mount versus like a Sig Romeo 5. In my personal experience, it's very, very close. The problem with a lot of prisms that come with their own unique mounting systems is that usually the mounts are not particularly great. With cheap red dots, you can put on a nice mount and have a good chance of holding 0 during certain really harsh drops. But if you get a prism and it's like a one-piece body, you're stuck with whatever that mount is. Now, if you just take the cheapest red dot mount, it's probably not going to hold 0 all that well. Versus like, let's take the Fox Raider, their new 1X Prism. That mount design is pretty good. Is it going to hold 0? Well, we'll see in not too long. So,
yeah, that Prism Scope was really interesting. I've never owned one before, and it was. It took a minute to get used to it.
Yeah, so I think the Swamp Fox, if it's one of the bigger ones, because Swamp Fox has a new 1X Raider, which is a really small. It looks like a red dot.
This was a
It's a prism.
4X.
Yeah, so their bigger options can kind of turn people off because they're really big and heavy and they have shorter eye relief. But there are other prisms on the market that have really good eye relief and eye box that are much more standard to like an LPBO or like a regular scope that aren't going to be so hard to use, because there are some prisms that are very punishing in terms of their eye relief and eye box. And if you're not prepared for that, if you don't like that, then you're just not going to like them.
Yeah, so the Swamp Fox, I mounted it like a regular scope, and I had to pull it. I actually had to bring it back another inch for it to, so the eye relief would match
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Yeah.
So it was okay. It was cool. I took it off. It's sitting on my desk now, but it was all right.
That happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if prisms are for me. Let's see. Vortex Spitfire 5X or PA Primary Arms SLX 5X.
It can come down to what you're mounting it on. The Spitfire uses an aimpoint T1, T2 style of mount. The PA, the SLX 5X, I've used both, and they both work fairly well. So they're both lightweight. They're both size and weight efficient. The primary arms probably has a slightly better reticle with the mill grid style option that they have. Now, when it comes to mounting a red dot, though, you're probably going to have to offset mount a red dot on either, because the Spitfire has the Vortex optic mounting footprint, which is not great, and you don't get a lot of good options. And then the primary arms red dot mounting platform is a joke. So you're probably just going to need an offset red dot on both of them. So either one is fine.
Look at these hard questions. Drop it like it Scott says. What's your thoughts on the Swamp Fox Saber?
I loved using it in like 5% of scenarios. So if I was like prone and I needed the widest field of view possible and I was very stable, it was great. But it's 26 ounces by itself.
Geez, that's heavy.
Just under 2 pounds. So if you're moving, if you're putting it on anything that's already a heavy gun to begin with, it is punishing. And because it's a 5X optic, it's not usable up close. So you need to use like an offset red dot or something like that, which I think I was using a Holosun 407K as an offset dot. It's just super punishing in terms of size and weight. But when you're sitting there prone, stationary, looking, and you can see everything because it has the biggest field of view on a 5X optic on the market, looks great. But every other time other than that, it sucks. So take
All
your
right,
poison.
Evan Easton has a question. Now, since he has a PSA 16-inch M-Lock, so he's obviously into more of the budget rifle.
Okay.
So would you recommend, so he goes, good red dot for a PSA 16-inch M-Lock. So would you recommend a more budget red dot?
Yeah. Well, it
Let's
really
just ask the
depends what he's
question.
looking for.
Let's get the question out of the way. What is the cheapest red dot you would depend on for like a weekend out? You the rifle. There's no going to a store getting a battery. There's no fixing it. If it breaks, it's just, and your flip up sights fell off. It's just you and the red dot.
Me and the red is okay. The cheapest red dot that I would choose to put in a rifle for like that. You know, that's a good question. I have had great luck with the Sig Romeo 5. So I mean that would be an option. I know, but another option that I got here that I actually really like quite a bit. This is the 5 XDR Gen 2. This is a new option that they just came out with a AAA battery in the mount itself. This is
it's a AAA battery.
Yeah, and it's a one-piece body.
Is that a SIG?
Yeah, this is the Sig Romeo 5 XDR Gen 2. So this is the updated model. They just came out with these. So this one here I haven't had any issues with. $150 seems pretty solid for the money. I mean, other than that, I mean, this is the Holosun version of the Sig Romeo 5. So this is the 403B.
Yeah,
so,
I've never had any problem.
About $100, $150 as well. So I've had good luck with the Sig Romeo 5. So from my personal experience, that would probably be the cheapest one that I would be all right with. If I had more money to spend, I probably would spend a little bit more money, though, if that makes sense.
Oh, perfect sense. Interested in PA5X with offset red dot EPS carry.
I've heard good things about the EPS carry. That plus the 5X. The 5X Prism from Primary Arms was very usable. I had a good time with it. So I don't really have any problems with that optic. It's not that expensive, like $350 plus an EPS, probably another $300. That's a $700 optic setup. So now at that point, you have to ask yourself, would you rather have a $700 Prism red dot or a $700 LPVO?
Right.
So
that's a good point. Stephen K, I forgot you need to replace the mount on your Romeo 5s. The UTG work well for you on the cheap?
Yeah, so the base mount, which is basically this thing here, it has almost no contact area on the mount itself. So they're just really cheap, crappy mounts that come with the Sig Romeo 5 and the cheap Holosuns. So you got to add in an extra like $30 to $40 for at least decent mount if you want it to be like rock solid, which is where something like the Sig Romeo 5 XDR comes in, because it has a one-piece mount style, which is actually really solid in terms of contact area and lockup, stuff like that.
Nice. What is your opinion on the 1x6x24 LPVO Victoria optics?
Yeah, it's Vict Optics and Vector Optics. So Vict Optics is a sub-brand of Vector Optics. So Vector Optics is the parent company. Victo is the sub-brand, basically. Victo is extremely cheap. Extremely cheap. Vector's already cheap, and Victo is a level below that. They seem fine on paper, but I personally, I would spend a little bit more money, because they're just super cheap.
Right.
And they got to be cutting corners somewhere. So
that's true. PSA has Crimson Trace compact optic reflex sight 1550 for $69.
I am not familiar with the Crimson Trace stuff, so I would have to look that up.
I've had some Crimson Trace optics, and I got to tell you, they are the absolute worst optics I've ever had in my life.
Good to hear.
For a while, Springfield was hooked up with them and was putting them on some of their guns. Terrible.
I think it was last year they came out at SHOT Show or something. They came out with like a bunch of like really big Crimson Trace where they kind of like redid their whole lineup last year.
Yeah, I got some of them. The only thing I have left to review on that is they sent some really sweet Crimson Trace 1911 grips with a laser in it. How?
I remember those in gun stores.
Oh, no. This is going on my Ninja out. So
okay.
I have a project gun that I ninja'd out, man. and it was a 1911. It wasn't Rock Island. It was EAA. It was a Gerson 1911, and I it's that video. I ninja'd it out, and that video got like 350,000 views.
Nice. That's
It
fantastic.
crushed, and I'm like, I was joking.
Yeah.
And so, if everyone in the chat, when you do YouTube, sometimes you work really hard on a video and it tanks.
Yep.
And then you do like a BS video and it crushes. So I
Yeah.
did my Christmas video, and I got all these other YouTubers that come on and say what they want, and I'm like, this is great. I'll get a couple thousand views. Right now, it's like 5 days old and it's sitting at like 500 views.
Ouch.
Tanking. And I was like, damn, dude, I really worked hard, because when they all sent the video in, I had to edit all the audio levels to make sure they matched. And I had to, like, I don't know, man. It's tanking so bad.
Well,
I'm
I mean,
like,
sometimes the YouTube algorithm is just like that, you know.
nah, I just,
There's some things it
I'm
likes,
just
and
chalking it up to
sometimes
it's not a good video.
maybe there's that too.
It's probably just not a good video, man. Obviously, if it was great, people would watch it. So a lot of people are like, oh, the YouTube hates me. I'm like, no, man, you just make shitty video. Make better content.
Yeah, that is also very true. You do get a lot of Guntubers, you know, complaining about views and whatnot, but they make the same content they made 10 years ago, and that audience just isn't there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it 3 years now, and I'm still goofing around with stuff, and it can be tough. Skunkworks, love FocusTrip.
Aw, thanks, man.
Skunkworks. They used to do a lot of car stuff. Steve says maybe a Vortex Crossfire.
I don't remember if I've ever. No, I have. I have shot the Vortex Crossfire. The only thing the Vortex Crossfire does not have is it does not have auto on, auto off, like a lot of the other budget red dots do nowadays. So that battery will die eventually because it doesn't turn off. So,
you know, Shake Awake or any of that auto on off is a must.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just standard at this point. Like if a dot doesn't have it, it's like, why not? Like $100 red dot has it, a $50 red dot hasn't. Why doesn't yours, basically?
Here's a good question. Jeffrey says, scope for a Zastava M77. What's your mount like on that?
Well, so if it's a side mount, you need something as low as possible. But it's an AK. So even if it's 545 or 7.60 by 39, you're not going to be shooting it all that far. So just a good, simple 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 is probably going to be all you need for 0 to 400 yards.
God, don't ever tell Clayco 47 you're not going to be shooting it that far, because he shoots.
No, Clayco's a fantastic shooter, but I haven't seen him shoot beyond 400 or 500 yards with an AK. You can, of course.
Oh,
but
man, he'll go out there and he'll get mad if he can't place first, second, or third against a bunch of AR guys, and he'll just the way he runs his AKs is. I remember sitting there watching him shoot a video, just going, "I'm quitting. I'm just going to go home now."
Right?
Because the way he manipulates those guns are so fast, it's unreal.
No, he's an extremely talented shooter.
But he shoots really far. He shoots his stuff like 500 yards, 600 yards. Let's see. Crimson Trace has bad CS, of course. Thoughts on Discovery Optics? I've never even heard of Discovery Optics.
Well, I've never discovered Discovery Optics. Yeah, so I have no opinion on them whatsoever.
All right. Here's another question for you. I can't see it. I'm getting old, man. God. Let's see. Offset mounts that hold 0 on drops other than the Valhalla Ruck. Primary arms 5x macro with Geisley mount. I said Giselle in one video, and
then everybody remembers you forever for that. Yeah. I mean, Geisley makes great stuff. I like all of Geisley stuffs. My best mount right now is a Geisley 193. So, but the 5x macro with Geisley mount, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like on a Geisley riser, because the 5x macro like has a Picatinny mount on the bottom. So I'm not sure what Geisley mount you mean. Unless Geisley's making an offset mount. So my offset mounts are Grove Tech. Now, not because it's not because they're my favorite mounts, but because I actually know the guys, I've shot with the guys, and they sent them to me, so I use them. You know, and also they do hold 0 just fine. but you got to remember most of the time they're protected by what other main optic you have is. So during a drop, they only have like a 25% chance of even getting impacted in the first place. So they're maybe not quite as critical as your main optic, but there are some good, more expensive offset mounts. I just haven't tried them. So
Yeah, I like that stuff too. Everyone in the chat, if you're not a subscriber to FocusTrip, I've just put a link to his channel in the chat. Please like, subscribe. I'm sure he'd greatly appreciate it.
I do. Thank you.
Ed says, I saw this Tesla truck and it's huge. I saw one too, and meh.
Do you guys have them rolling around down there in person now?
I saw one, yeah. And
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah. So my thing with them is that they look so simple, like an overly simple design. Like the lines aren't very pretty on it. It just looks like a rolling block, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I drive a Honda Ridgeline. I really don't have a lot of room to talk.
Right.
But
well, at least that kind of looks like a truck, though.
now it does.
Hmm.
But now, I have a trunk. So Honda Ridgelines have a huge trunk. You can put 3 gun bags in.
Mhm.
And it's double lockable.
Nice.
This is the one I have outside. It's number 5. I've had 5 Ridgelines.
Really? You just love them that much?
Yeah.
You
It's
just
the only
keep
thing I buy.
upgrading as they come out?
Yeah, every couple of years I just get a new Ridgeline. Or
There you go.
I got hit by a drunk driver last year and had to change it out.
Ouch.
Yeah, that sucked.
That's
after the NRA show, driving home from the NRA show.
Gets taken out.
Yeah. Alpha Ken Body said there's a ton in San Francisco. No kidding. They probably like that bulletproof glass, maybe, so they can't break it.
Right, you need it. It's a requirement to live there.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. So there's one thing. I was going around your channel and I saw the last video you did on the Arcan optics, and it was what did you title it?
The Arcan question, I think.
And it was like how they approach Guntubers and whatnot.
Mhm.
I think I don't know. I think it's kind of hard in the paint on them a little bit.
Really? I thought I could have gotten a lot harder.
Everybody, all these guys. I mean, Winchester, Ruger. They've had weekends where they invite people out.
This is true. Yeah.
For there's not money. I don't want to pay you to do a review, but why don't you come spend this weekend at a resort?
Yeah, I mean,
because I went on a thing to CMMG.
Yeah, no, I did see a bunch of people going there for that sort of stuff.
Fantastic. I went last year, and I had the time of my life, but you won't see CMMG products on my channel.
Yeah. So my thing is, though, I really can only talk about my experiences because there's not a lot of companies that like offer me stuff, I guess you could say. So I just talk about stuff that I actually know about, right? So like it's I've never been like invited out to go to like a special shoot somewhere where they put me up somewhere nice and expect me to talk about it later on or something like that. So, but no, yes, you are correct. That does go on quite a bit in the industry.
Heavily. And then you you said something. God, what was it? Like I'm not sure if they offer money or this and that. And everybody, everyone in the chat, let me just say, all your top YouTubers, those are paid reviews. May not be financially, but it's free ammo, free a lot of stuff, or they are just paid.
Some of it is straight up money that they offer, and that's the one that's like
a lot of these big crazy YouTubers over 500,000 plus. They won't touch a gun for under $25,000-$30,000. That's for one gun.
I have heard of because a lot of them are on the what are they, the Leviathan tribe or something like that. I have heard companies getting upset at how much some of these people charge to do a review, which is
a lot.
Yeah,
let's just say
it's very funny.
A lot. So, but that stuff happens all the time. So when you said, "Well, I don't know if it's just them," I'm like, "Come on, man, you've been doing this a long time, and they all do it at some level." And then, so I had a company reach out to me that had a new upper.
Okay.
Like, hey, they sent me this huge email. We want you to review this upper. Great. I'm not going to ask for money to do it, but I'm going to use my time, energy, editing skills. I mean, well, not editing skills.
Whatever skills you may have, you used all
right.
of them.
So it's going to cost me hours of work plus a trip to the range, ammo, all that. And at the end, it goes, we're a small company. We're going to like the product back after you review it.
Oh, that's always tough. Ugh.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, if I'm going to spend
Mhm.
all this time and energy reviewing a product, give it to me free.
Mhm.
But when I very first started, like when you first start, someone sends you a holster. You're like, holy shit, I got a free holster. This is amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But when you get to certain levels, and so when you see those big guys getting paid a lot of money, I'm like, they just worked for it. I mean, they get paid, but it shouldn't have you shouldn't sway their opinion.
Mhm.
Like I went really hard in the paint on Kimber. They're never going to deal with me. And then
Yeah.
Keltec will never deal with me.
What did you review of Keltec? I have like never shot a
Sub
Keltec.
2000.
Oh, really? Okay.
I hated it.
Mhm.
I absolutely hated it. People love that gun. I hated it. It was my kids couldn't charge it. They couldn't pull the charging handle back. My wife didn't like it. If you mount a red dot and you couldn't close
Oh,
it
I know. Yeah, you lose the
unless you
whole
bought a
functionality of it.
separate $150, $200 mount that swivels out of the way. So, man, might as well
Yeah.
just get an AR9.
No, it's kind of a hokey design that has, for some reason, it has like a cult following of people that just
Oh yeah,
absolutely love it. You
I
know?
had so many people. This one guy goes, maybe if you weren't so fat, you could put your cheek closer to the red. Like the sights for me were wonky, and so I mentioned that. And
Yeah.
this guy in the chat goes, maybe if your head wasn't so fat and
Mhm.
you lost some
Mhm.
weight, you could your field of view would be better.
Right.
Something I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
It was really funny.
as soon as you make fun of something that people like, they just, like, go down the list of, like, your physical attributes that they can
Oh
make fun
yeah,
of. If you have a speech impediment or anything, that's like they're just gonna go down the list of whatever they don't like about you.
yeah. Or Glock 2, man. Oh man, that's a discussion. If you say you don't
For
like a
sure.
Glock, or
Yeah.
I call them Glockophiles. And yeah, that's a big discussion too. All right, let's check the chat. Free Bay Area says Giselle makes a super precision ACOG mount.
Oh, okay, so the PA5X uses the full-size ACOG mount, but that should be fine. Like, I've used the full-size primary arms prisms. They are all right. You know, they have a shorter eye relief. The reticles are really good. The glass quality, brightness, all that's all fine, but not my favorite out there. They are really big and heavy.
Oh, this is a great compliment. This is probably the best compliment you can get. Focus is the average person's gun tuber.
Well, I appreciate that. I am a pretty average person.
I
So
am the average Special Olympics gun tuber.
exactly.
If you got a helmet and a spit bucket, we can be friends.
Hmm.
Let's see. Check out Focus Shooting LCC MK3 Upper is a solid choice.
That's an upper I produce. So Steve is just shilling for me right now, Steve.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
you got to take it, man.
Hmm.
Here's a good question. Would Vector 1x6 Continental have had less zero shift if it was in a Badger C1 mount?
So
I
it's
have no
really
idea.
hard. So what he's talking about is a optic that I reviewed, which is the Vector Continental 1-6, which is a really great LPVO for the money. It did have, it had like a 2 MOA point of impact shift, a 3 MOA point of impact shift after dropping it on an AR500 steel plate, which for an LPVO is very, very good. And it was in like a $300 primary arms PLX mount. The Badger ordnance mounts I've seen are fine. They are very expensive, but they're probably going to hold zero very well. If I had to guess, the issue with the zero is going to hold more with the LPVO versus the mounts. So, for instance, I've dropped LPVOs in much cheaper mounts and had about the same point of impact shift.
Mhm.
So the limiting factor is probably the LPVO, not the mount. Is after a certain level of quality, as long as the mount is clamping the optic to your rail, it's doing its job basically, right? And then it's up to the LPVO whether or not it's going to survive.
Yeah, I remember back in the old days when LaRue came out with the LaRue mount, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing! You can take it off and put it back on and hold zero."
Back when it was revolutionary to do that.
It was absolutely revolutionary.
Mhm.
That was crazy,
Well, it's their fault that they started the whole QD craze in general.
right? David Green, nice. Oh, I love this, man. This is awesome. Tard, Tactical Autism Response
Dude,
Division.
that is super good. We ought to put that
Dude,
on a sweatshirt or
put
something.
that on a t-shirt immediately. I
That
love
is
it,
really good.
man. I love it.
I might have to use that.
All right. So what's next? You're not really a big pistol guy. What rifles have you shot that you're like,
Oh, like ARs? ARs is most of what I do, I would say.
all right, so let me ask you a question. What is the
Mhm.
nicest, most unexpected gun you shot this last 2 years? Where you're like, wow, this is a really great gun that surprised you.
Mhm. You know, this might be cheating because I've had good luck with them before, but it's a video that I'm editing right now, and it is on um, the PWS Mark 116, which is a long stroke piston operating system in an AR body. It's not really an AR, it's compatible with AR lowers, but almost
Right.
nothing is compatible in it. And I've had experience with PWS before, like 2 or 3 years ago, but I got this new one that they sent out to me, and it is fantastic. It competes with a lot of the other super high end ARs like Geisley, ADM, DD. It's going to compete right alongside of them in terms of reliability, accuracy, and shootability. So
Nice.
yeah,
How long does it
very
take
nice.
you to edit one of your videos?
Oh, buddy. It depends on the video, and it
Because your
depends.
openings
Mhm.
usually take you had one, you had one, and I'm like, you missed an opportunity, man. And I'm watching it going, ah, you were shooting, 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 and
Uh-huh.
then you were transitioned and you hit the target that was in front of you. And then you got
Okay.
up and
Yeah.
dude, I thought if you had gotten up and just kicked the shit out of the target, that would have been
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, no, I remember. I think I remember what video you're talking about. So it really depends on the video and the style. Like the one I just put up on Arkin today, where I record a voiceover and then basically put video on top of it. That's not too bad. That might be just a couple hours. But like the PWS video, it has like an hour long talking section in the middle of it, and I have to cut and edit all of that together. This one's probably going to take me about 8 hours in total.
Oh man. How come you don't do any of your talking points outside? Because it looks like you're at some really nice ranges or nice areas.
Wind. So here in South Dakota, I've only been in South Dakota for about 6 months now.
Mhm.
And I have to drive 3 hours to go to the Pierre grasslands. So I record in a studio with a Shure SM57, which is just like your standard
Right.
microphone. Um, and it just doesn't sound as good out in the wild. And I mean, I could buy a much nicer microphone setup like other YouTubers use for like outdoor shooting and stuff like that, like to get really good audio quality. But this also comes back to the fact that I don't want to spend a lot of money if I don't have to. So I just record in my room basically.
There's a really cool trick you could do with your mic
Mhm.
if it's real windy and it cuts it all out.
Put it inside your sweatshirt.
With the double tape trick. Have you seen
Okay.
that?
Uh,
I'll send it to you.
okay.
It keeps it from moving around and it cuts out 99% of the wind.
Interesting. I'll have to look at that.
I used it once. And now,
Okay.
because I saw it on YouTube and I'm like, oh, it's got to work. It's on the
Mhm.
internet. It must be true.
Yeah.
Shit, it worked. I was
Right.
blown away. I sent it to everybody, but that was before we started talking.
Mhm.
But let's
Yeah,
see.
I mean,
Anybody?
I definitely could do more in range stuff. It is actually easier if you can just talk about the product in range, and
Right.
then you just come home and you just edit the footage, basically, right? Um, but yeah, I feel like people don't really care about me, the person. They want to like see the thing doing the thing, basically. So, which is why I try and put in a ton of B roll, a ton of shooting footage. And like if I'm talking about taking something apart, like in this case with the PWS, it's like very involved to get it all apart. So as I'm talking about what's going on with it, I then have the video overlaid of actually taking it apart
Yeah, I
and
saw it.
showing
It's
what's
very
going on with
tastefully done. And you know, it's
it.
true. That's something a lot of YouTubers don't understand. Nobody wants to see you. They
Mhm.
want to see the product up close.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's why they clicked on the video, especially if they don't know you.
100%.
Like people who are subscribed to my channel, they might care about me and they might want to see what I have to say. But the average Joe who's just looking at a product review and he wants to know, is this thing good? How does it work? He just wants to see the thing doing the thing, basically.
100%.
Mhm.
So when I go to SHOT Show, I see a lot of people carry the camera and they want to have someone hold the camera so they can interview. No one gives a shit about me. They want to see the product and the guy
Mhm.
talking about the product.
Mhm.
They know what I look like.
Yeah. The one exception to that, I think, is probably like James from TFB TV because he's such like a
Well,
personality
it's because
that
he's
people really
handsome
like
as
it.
shit too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So put him in the video, let him be charming and charismatic, and just let it roll, basically.
James is a trip, man. Do you know Hop? Have you ever met Hoplophile?
I've never met Hop in person. We chat every now and again. That's about it.
So he was with me on that CMMG deal, and
Mhm.
I got him to smile twice, and I
Oh
thought,
yeah.
"Man, dude, that was a win."
Mhm.
I got him to break character twice. He stays like that all the time. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's tall as
No,
shit.
he makes great videos too.
Yeah, you know what's funny? So besides your channel, when usually if anybody else makes an optics video, they tank hard.
Mhm.
Optics videos don't ever really do well because
Um,
it's a very select few that
mhm.
really like him. All of his, he'll drop it and get 80,000 views in
Sure.
a
Yeah.
couple hours.
I think it's because there's a couple channels that do it really well, where they can talk about the optic and also give you a use case and like talk more meta reasons about it as well. And people are super interested in that sort of thing, like the reason behind it, not just about the product itself. When some
Right.
people do a product review, it's literally just like reading off the spec sheet, which I could have done myself in 30 seconds. So you just wasted 10 minutes of my time. But uh, if you can give me a reason why something works or why I shouldn't buy it or what could be improved on it or more meta reasons why it might not be good for a certain circumstance or something and also be very smart and entertaining with it as well, you're going to get more views on it essentially.
Yeah, like when I do stuff like that and I don't know, I'll say, I don't know. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about this. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like when I did the Prism, I have no idea. I'm going to learn along with you guys.
Right,
And,
right.
'cause
And that can be fun,
I'm not
especially if
an
you're
expert.
interested in the user itself or in the person making the content. But
Yeah.
I could see how somebody just coming along and seeing you for the first time might be, annoyed or something because they might think you're wasting their time because, they want to have all the answers. They just want to get to the end conclusion. Should I buy it? Should I not? Versus like,
Yeah.
watch somebody fumble with something for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't like so I did a video recently where I'm like, "Hey, I need to learn how to put this together."
Mhm.
And I'm looking at all these choices. There's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 7 minutes. I'm going to watch the 7-minute video because I
Right.
don't give a shit about your grandkids or what's going on, what you had for lunch. I want to know how to do this specific thing because I'm a busy guy. And
Right.
that's what a lot of
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Let's see. But yeah, so let's circle all the way back to the Arkin. So everyone does it, man. It's some level.
Mhm.
So like we were talking earlier about TriggerCon.
Mhm.
Um, man, TriggerCon, they didn't pay, as far as I know, they didn't pay anybody to go. But they sponsored lunch every day. They sponsored a real nice night out. A nice shooting event. So
Well,
it's just a necessary evil of the industry.
With that sort of thing, I think that because TriggerCon makes money from vendors, basically vendors showing up, and so they have a vested interest in getting social media personalities there to show off the products, right? Because the vendor's not going to show up, or they're not going to come back if they don't get any good exposure off of bringing their products to the public.
100%.
So in that sort of circumstance, it's almost like there's a party in between you and the vendors themselves. So I feel like it's a little better in that regard versus like if I talk to Arkin directly and they're like, hey, by the way, your budget for this video is $500 and we're going to send you ammo and we're going to do a giveaway with you and we're sending you 2 optics. That's much more direct influence on the personality on whoever's doing the video versus like show up here and talk about some products or just take videos of
So
products and stuff like that.
to that point, I'm not at that level, right? I
Mhm.
mean, no one's ever offered me money to do anything. I mean, free products are cool. I mean, I
Yeah.
love a free scope. I didn't pay for that Arkin scope.
Mhm.
If it's a piece of shit, I'm gonna say it's a piece of shit.
What is that on? Is that the big one in the back?
Yeah, it's on my Remington 700.
Okay, cool. Is that just 308?
Yeah, 308. It's a 6 by 24 by 50.
Okay, cool. So is that one of their EP lines, the Japanese glass line?
It's the SH4
Okay,
Gen.
SH4. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm probably never gonna shoot it past 200 yards, really.
Mhm.
But I just wanted a big scope,
Right,
and they're
but
like,
it
"Hey,
looks great on the gun. That's
it
the most
looks cool.
important
It
part.
weighs thousands of pounds now."
I in that video, I don't know if you noticed it, but I was like going through their product page and I like highlighted the weight on one of the
They're
on
so
one of the
heavy,
optics, and it was 39.5 ounces, and I was like, "Jeez."
so heavy, dude.
Yeah.
It is crazy. But that's gonna be, there's no way I'm taking that through the woods.
No,
I have
no.
a Tika T3 light with a 3x9 Nikon.
Yeah,
That's what I would
perfect.
go in the woods.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
super light. It's gonna suck to shoot it, but
But I mean, you're hopefully shooting it one time.
one time.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, if for a long range scope, for a precision setup, for a bench rest setup, for even PRS where you're only moving between like a couple different obstacles, 10 rounds total in like 90 seconds, weight's a good thing. These guys are running around with 20-pound guns to begin with. So a couple pounds on top of it's not a big deal.
All right. Look, we have Don Pato in here waving. What's up? Frito O'Rourke.
Fido O'Rourke, yeah.
Dude,
That's
that is
Gary.
a
He's a good dude.
great name. I hope that's not your real name. That's too, and I'm in Texas. That's too close to Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah. Well, that's the joke. That's the joke. It's
Okay.
that guy's name is he's Gary. He's a good dude. He's in my channel all the time.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was scared, man. I was scared for a minute. All right, so we talked about what gun you liked a lot. What gun did you pick up and you're like, man, this is a piece of junk? What was the most disappointing rifle firearm you've shot in the last 2 years? Let's put them on blast right now.
I feel really bad, but it might be a gun that's actually pretty good, but it's just not quite
well known or
up to
pretty
snuff.
good.
Well, it's kind of well known. So I'm just kind of quickly scrolling through here to make sure I'm not missing something blatant. Oh, actually, no. The worst gun that I shot in the last 2 years was by a little company called Davidson Defense. Have you ever heard of Davidson Defense or Delta Team Tactical or Omega Manufacturing, I want to say?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're essentially all three the same company that just like copy and pasted on 3 different websites. I talked to the guys there. They're very nice. And they recently sent me out some more stuff to review, which is awesome because I did a very negative review going through all the problems I had with one of their stuff. They changed a lot of their assembly processes and updated a lot of their stuff to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And they're still working with me, which is a great sign. Whenever you do a negative review and instead of suing you or sending you a cease and desist, they actually just improve, which is fantastic. But the worst rifle, it was a Davidson Defense, what they called their Journeyman, which is their entry-level rifle, $500 to your door. Now, in the first 1,200 rounds of shooting it, which is probably a lot more than the average person is going to shoot on it, I had the gas block come loose, I had the handguard come loose, and I had the barrel nut come loose on it. So whoever assembled it,
that's terrible.
Barely put anything together on it. So, I mean, in theory, it could have exploded at some point during the review. Fortunately, it didn't. But yeah, so after that video, they put out a statement and they went through all of the fixes that they are doing in their QC and assembly processes and stuff like that. So that was probably the worst, but at least the company had a very good response to it.
Yeah, and companies can survive bad QC and bad reputations. Look at Radical Firearms, right? Radical Firearms had a terrible reputation about 5-6 years ago. They brought everything in-house, and now they are one of the absolute best budget rifles you can buy now.
Because you know what's funny is what started that turnaround is almost right after they had a new management team who said they were going to basically redo everything, is you actually had Grand Thumb back then. I don't know if you remember this, but Radical Firearms had a quote unquote like a police level rifle that Grand Thumb did a review on. Like this is like 5 or 6 years ago when it was just a basic old style Grand Thumb review. And it actually did really well, which is kind of right around that turning point for Radical Firearms.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go back, it's still on his channel. It's a great video actually, and the rifle.
They're local Texas, so I know those guys pretty well. Yeah. And first thing I asked them, like, yo, what's with this bad rep do you guys have where your products are shit? And they both were like, oh, it was a long time ago. Because when they first started, they would source all their stuff separately. Now everything is made in house except for like the screws. I mean, they make
I mean, there's some things that it's a waste of time to machine in house. Like, but just outsource your screws and a few other components. But yeah, if you can actually make stuff like make handguards, make barrels, especially as well, you're going to be so much better off than 90% of companies out there that are buying in batches from other companies.
100%. And I love those guys. I'll be over there Friday.
Oh, nice. Very, very nice.
Hanging out with them.
Are you going to do a like a facility tour?
I did one.
Okay.
I do
Cool.
want to thank you for researching my channel. I appreciate it. No,
You
I'm
are
kidding.
welcome. I'm actually gonna look for that video right now because I'm gonna bookmark it for later.
No, if you ever want to come down and check them out, they're cool people, man. Like I went there just to pick up.
Oh, there it is.
I had to. What did I drop off? I went to drop something off, and I had a buddy with me, and they gave him. And he's a big AutoCAD designer, so they went and showed him all those 5-axis machines, and they got, I mean, a very impressive building facility. And dude, they took this guy and made his whole week. Like, it was awesome. Like, I've seen it a bunch, but for him being really into design and fabrication, he had the time of his life.
Yeah, like actually seeing how the stuff gets made. How
Yeah,
it
they had
works,
those titanium, I guess, the 3D printer machines that do the
Ooh.
suppressors. Oh my
Are
god!
they 3D printing suppressors, radical firearms?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
2 giant machine, and then they let me shoot a couple full auto machine guns with their suppressors on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had the great time. That was really, really cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, do you ever come down to Houston or this area?
I've only ever been to Texas once for a job interview a long, long time ago. So not usually, no, not unless I have something going on.
Well, the NRA show's in Dallas next year. If you go to that,
I'm not a huge fan of shows, but if I find a reason to go down there, I will.
Are you going to SHOT Show?
No, I don't think so. Not as of right now. No.
Man, it gets more expensive every year.
Yeah. I might make videos making fun of some of the products at SHOT Show, but I won't actually be there.
Oh, I tell you what, I'll send you some little 30-second clips of some ridiculous shit I see.
That would be perfect, actually.
And then if you just do a voiceover, I'm there in spirit. Look at this.
Exactly. I love seeing all the vaporware that gets shown off at SHOT Show and then never comes out.
Yeah, this Chinese lady handed me a triple barreled shotgun, and I was like, oh god, I want this. Where do I get it? Oh, it's only for sale in Turkey. I'm like, well, fudge.
Why is it here? Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it looks something out of a movie, man. It was so cool. John Doe says the NRA is not dead yet. Look, I don't support the NRA. But man, it's a pretty good show. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good people there still.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of people get hung up on like the organization. Like if you look into Rainier Arms, I want to say the guys that put on
oh yeah. They had some bad
they had some stuff happen that's like legitimately bad, and I get why people are upset. But it's the companies that are there, it's the people that are there. That's what you should probably focus on rather than like, the one sponsor of it, basically. So even if you don't like the NRA, there's still good companies there.
Yeah. Look, Fluffy. How old is that Radical, buddy? It's probably one of the old ones. So look, me and my kids, we spray painted this one, and we had the time of our life.
Yeah, it's fun.
They went and how old are your kids?
So I have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. So it's probably that's a little too advanced for them right now.
Oh man. A 3-year-old boy. So he's doing Paw Patrol right now.
Oh yeah. He loves Paw Patrol.
He's probably do you guys watch was it Pokeo?
Pokeo, yes. I
love that stupid cartoon.
They probably watch a little too much.
So when you have little kids, you gotta have cartoons that you can stomach. Pokeo is pretty funny, man. I can watch that. Paw Patrol's a little cheesy, but
yeah, man.
So I have a 22-year-old. She's gone in the Army in Okinawa right now, doing whatever. I don't want to know.
That's fun.
And I have a 11-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. And let me tell you, man, they grow up so quick, dude.
Yeah.
Like Santa and Christmas. Do you guys do the train around the tree?
No. Well, like I said, we're not super like set up here right now, but we have a Christmas tree and stuff like that. So we're just kind of getting into all that stuff now. We're late on it.
It is so cool, man. Those kids, people that don't have kids just don't understand. It's pretty cool. Then when
my kids are still super young, so I mean, like people tell me, oh, they grow up super fast, but it's like, oh, mine are still like really little right now. But I'm sure like 5 years from now they're going to be huge.
So here's some advice, and this is something I like to look back on all the time. Take as much video as you can.
Oh, my wife never stops.
Dude, you're gonna love it because, like, this is probably the last year we're gonna do Santa and all that stuff, and that's it, man. It's gone.
Yeah.
Bummer. Yeah. Way to bring the crowd down, Smash. Sorry about that. Fredo says Bluey is the GOAT. Bluey is okay. VeggieTales is cool. Something you can watch a lot.
So we watch VeggieTales on repeat because it's great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because like I grew up
absolutely.
watching VeggieTales, you know, because
It's
I'm
the
only
same
28. So
stuff. It's
yeah,
still
yeah.
really good.
Well, we watched the original stuff from back
Yeah,
when I was a kid.
yeah.
But
Now
yeah,
it's like
they do have a
reruns.
new show out or something, right? That they keep making stuff.
Dude, I don't know now, but you got to really censor what they watch now because there's some
Oh
stuff
yeah.
out there
They
that's
they they can't be alone, you know, letting
no.
something play in the background. That's irresponsible.
When my kids were like 6, my mother-in-law, my wife's Filipino, so like
Mhm.
the relatives move in immediately. It's kind of a package deal.
Oh really?
And so my mother-in-law was watching South Park with my little kids because
Ooh.
it was just a cartoon and her English is
Right,
terrible.
right, right.
So I
Very
walk in
different
there and
cartoon.
Cartman is, doing an
Doing
anal
his thing.
probe. I'm like, what
Mhm.
are you guys watching? My kids are like laughing their brains out. I'm
Well,
like,
of
oh
course,
my
it's like
God.
crack to them because they've never experienced something like that.
Yeah, it was terrible. I'm like, Mom, no more Comedy Central, please.
Right.
All right. Jesus says his kids like to watch anime. Hey, be careful. There's a lot of studies that say anime leads into antisocial behaviors. It's weird.
I wonder if that's a cross-pollination type thing where they're already antisocial, so that they watch anime a lot
Maybe.
versus
That's
like,
a that's a good point.
because
They say like,
you do get things where it's like one leads to the other, but it's actually they're just this way, so they have a natural tendency towards this thing. But
right, right.
yeah,
So they're like, oh, one day it's anime, next day they're Antifa. It just kind
right.
of goes right that way.
It's the Antifa pipeline.
It is. It is. So what's next for the channel, man?
Like what am I focusing on like next year
Yeah.
or
So are you
um
still gonna just keep doing optics because it's a winning formula? Obviously, it's doing pretty well.
It this year, the last couple months have gone really well, honestly. Ever since Lead and Steel sent me a cease and desist, my channel has never done better, especially these last 2 months. So I think I'm going to continue to do the standard review style content, optics, guns, uppers, that sort of thing. That's kind of like my bread and butter. But I think I'm also just going to have to mix in more like industry videos and stuff like that, going into some of the more back end stuff, dealing with companies, so on and so forth. Because people
Yeah.
do really like that content, and
Or you could just
if
keep
something needs to
poking
be
it,
called out, people like to watch stuff
dude.
gets called out that needs to get called out.
Keep poking that bear.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're like, hey, should I be in jail right now? Dragged before a court? I could have swore that was Tuesday, but
Right.
I'm still here. Let's see. Guns and Gear, Grand Thumb, Hickok 45. Which would you pick as your right hand? It has to be Grand Thumb because Guns and Gear, Mike is a lunatic. Hickok is too
Mike
old.
is a lunatic. What's wrong with Mike? Mike watches my stuff, man.
That dude is a lunatic in a good way. Ask him about any conspiracy theory.
Oh, okay, okay, fantastic.
I
Maybe
mean,
me and him would get along really well then, because I find that stuff super entertaining.
dude, I used to listen. I'm 45. I used to listen to Alex
Mhm.
Jones
Okay, yeah.
before he had a big show. He used to come on the show called George Norrie Coast to Coast. I was working
Mm.
graveyard. It was an old show. It'd come on, talk about aliens and
Oh yeah, just all sorts of
the
random stuff.
pyramids and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And he came on right after he did the Bohemian Grove video.
Okay.
This is years and years ago. And
Mhm.
I'm like, this guy's a lunatic. Back then, I'm from California. I was a Democrat. I was pretty left sided.
Mhm.
I'm reformed and
Reformed Texan.
right, born again Texan.
Mhm.
And I used to listen to Alex Jones back, 25 years ago, and I used to joke and laugh like, this guy's a lunatic. And then everything he said started coming true. And I was like, Jesus, man, maybe there's something to this guy.
Yeah. That is always funny when the conspiracy pipeline is just basically like
All
tomorrow's
facts.
headlines. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because I remember before Obama came out, this is like years and years before Obama, he's like, the DNC is going to have a young, charismatic black gentleman come out of nowhere with no past, and he's going to get funding through the internet through offshore accounts. And I'm like, well, that'll never happen. Then, like 5 years later,
Right.
Obama's getting massive amounts of funding through offshore accounts. I was like, holy shit, that's pretty crazy.
Mm.
Yeah, right here, Art Bell, Coast to Coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
paranormal stuff is super fun too.
Yeah, it was Art Bell, and then he retired to the Philippines, and then the George Norrie took it over. And man, it was a cool show. A lot of weird stuff though.
Oh yeah. I mean the community is a interesting place to be.
Yeah. Well, heck, man, I got to tell you, this has been a lot of fun. I like I said, I try and find interesting people I like to talk to, and your channel immediately struck a nerve. It was in a good way.
Right.
The videos are sharp. I think the cinematography. If you're a one-man show, right?
Yeah, right now I'm a one-man show. I've been that way for a
For
couple
a
of years.
one-man show, from a one-man show, I can really respect and admire all the hard work you put into your intros. That's a
Thank
lot
you.
of
I
work
appreciate
that
it.
goes
Yeah,
into that.
yeah, for sure. I
And,
appreciate it, man, and I hope people enjoy them. That's why I do it.
and when I see it, I'm like, God, is he color grading? Like, son of a bitch. It's always that next level up.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'll get to that next year. I'll learn that next year.
Right.
Because when you do YouTube, no one tells you that you have to be a cinematographer, a storyteller, write scripts,
You also
have a
need to be a voice
compelling.
actor as well.
You have to do all this stuff, and it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And man, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm glad to call you a buddy now.
Yeah, well,
And
thanks. I
I'll be
appreciate you having
sure
me
to
on.
send you a lot of funny stuff from SHOT Show.
Good. Yeah.
Just random things.
Well, that's one of my favorite parts of the year is watching all of the oddball content that gets made on SHOT Show.
Yeah, so the first year I went, I made 4 separate videos of like a journey to SHOT Show, and nobody cared.
Right.
Nobody cares. So the next year I went straight to PSA. I'm like, everyone loves them. I did a very up close to all the guns on my cell phone, because the first day I had my really cool Sony camera, and it looked like crap because the lighting and all the buildings are different. You spend more time messing with your ISO than you do content. So I did one video on my phone, cut, edited it, and posted it from the show, and got like 500,000 views on it.
Jeez.
It was
There
nuts.
you go. Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in any of it. It was just
all you need to do is like write down the top 10 like hot items that people are looking forward to, and then just hit those first. Post first, get all the first views and all that sort of stuff. You'll do great.
Yeah. Plus, I'm just there to hang out. Yeah, pretty much. Just there to hang out, goof off. It's a lot of fun. All right. Well, I posted FocusTripp's channel in the chat. Please, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to his channel. He'd greatly appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. He's racing to 50,000 subscribers. How many more do you have left?
It's pretty close.
Like 200?
We are at 49,721. So 200 and
look at that.
Almost there. Yeah, we'll hit it this month. So I'm excited for that.
Nice. Dude, that's a big one. 50,000 is a big one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's taken a long time to get here, but yeah, it's been good. I enjoy it.
Well, it's going to snowball. It's going to snowball. I think.
I mean, in some ways I hope so. But we'll see, because I mean, it's not all about just getting big. I'd rather make good content, than just necessarily have like 1 million subscribers or something like that. So
yeah, it'll fall into place. Like the Mr. Beast formula. Just concentrate on making the best videos you can make, and then everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone in the chat, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out. I really appreciate each and every one of you.